This morning's Carolina People is coming up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Murrells Inlet office of America's largest telephone cooperative, HTC. We're focused on bilingual connections, and we're visiting with its founder, Miriam Berouet. How are you, Miriam?
Fine, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in early on a Tuesday morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
A great opportunity to learn more about bilingual connections, which just kicked off. You shared with us earlier this morning the first of the year.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's something that I've thought about for several years. I think there's a need in the county, and you're absolutely right. We just kicked off in January, and I'm pleased to say things are going well.
Ramping up fast.
Yes, they are.
And you said you've been thinking about it for years. What finally got you to commit to do it now?
Well, I'm the former director of the Hispanic Business Center at Horry Georgetown Technical College.
Right.
And having always been involved in the Hispanic community, even when it wasn't part of my job, you know, as the population increased, I could see that there was a need for several different things. Training for large companies that have large Hispanic clientele that go through there, training in the court system, the police force, cultural training, diversity training, understanding the culture that you're working with and trying to service is a key component.
Right.
As far as productivity and as far as business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Miriam, just hearing you talk is exciting because you're surely covering a lot of bases there.
Yes, and there, like I said, there's a great need in Horry County, and as far as I know, this is the first type of company of this sort in Myrtle Beach.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That covers all of that. There
Yes.
are some translation
Right.
and other companies in the area.
Right. And another thing that my company is focusing on doing, we are very much about marrying the two communities together, fostering an understanding between the two communities. So not only do I approach American companies with my services, I approach Hispanic companies as well. Because just like there's a need to maybe learn some Spanish to better service your clients, because we're all about the bottom line.
Right,
And
right.
if you can better service your clients, then you'll have more clients coming to that location or to you. But at the same time, to improve the communication and understanding, I also approach Hispanic companies and teach them workplace English, where I would teach an American company workplace Spanish.
Yeah.
And what that basically is you don't go through the formal routine of learning a language. You go through the routine of basically learning a phrase that you can learn today and use tomorrow. Because as adults, as business owners, as people who have hectic schedules, it's very difficult to go through formal training or even, dedicate maybe 2 years to get a degree.
Sure.
Because we're here to work, we're here to make money, and we're here to support our families. And, a lot of people do not have that amount of time to dedicate, even though they would love to. So my company offers concise training that you can do it in a month's time to give you some basic terminology and phrases that you can use. And then provided if you have more time and want to expand, then we can offer you different levels.
Does your company, Miriam, normally go to the client, or do they come to you? Let's say even HTC here. I mean, do you go
We go to the client because, again, we want to help the company save on their time. Save on the time that the employee is going to be away from their job.
Sure.
And, we tell the companies, if they have several different branches, such as HTC, to combine, maybe 1 or 2 people from the different branches that they have, and then we pick a day and time that's convenient to the schedule and to the company, because companies knows when their peak days are and peak times.
Sure.
And then we have the class on site so that, again, it lessens the time that the employee is going to be away from the company.
Have you seen a good reception from the Hispanic community, being willing to recognize how important it is for them to learn some basic English?
Yes, definitely. And that's another myth that I would like to clarify. It's not that the Hispanics are here and don't want to learn English. That's not the case at all. Again, it's the time constraint. Again, it's sometimes having and knowing where to go. And then again, it's needing the level of English that you need for what you do. So yes, it has taken off in the Hispanic community as well. The people who have come and taken my courses have been business owners, and they like to know things about writing contracts,
right.
Spelling out numbers, because
right.
they know how to say the numbers, but when you're writing a check or doing a contract and making sure that they're presenting everything correctly,
right.
that's what they come to me for.
Excellent.
And it's interesting on both sides of the house when you're learning the language how important a role culture plays, because from the Hispanic community there are certain cultural things that they have to know and understand, such as how important time and schedules are to an American patron. Because the old saying, we're slaves to the clock, and we are, because we have such hectic schedules. So
right.
A half an hour makes a difference in a person's entire day or entire schedule.
Right.
So just really making that hit home to the Hispanic community, because they're a little bit more relaxed on the issue of time. Also,
is that because they put more time in, or they're willing to commit more time, or why would that be, you think?
That's part of it, but the thing is too is that, like, let's say somebody was supposed to meet with you and they
right.
see me and my car is pulled off to the side of the road
right.
and my hood is up.
Right.
Well, friendships and personal relationships have more value. So in that case, that person would stop to make sure that I was okay.
Right.
And if I didn't need anything, and then come and meet with you afterwards. So in an effort, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, that's admirable.
But, in an effort to, I guess, meet in the middle with that,
right.
what I try to teach is that, now everyone has a cell phone. So, just make sure that you call the person and let them know that you're going to be running maybe a half an hour behind or an hour behind.
Right.
And if that person still has time to see you, or if it would be better to reschedule.
Yeah.
Another cultural thing is leaving a message. One of my students that took one of my classes, who was Hispanic,
right.
said to me, we always know when an American's calling, because if we don't pick up the phone right away, we'll get a beep instantly letting us know that there was a message left.
Right, yeah.
But culturally, it's not indoctrinated into their culture to leave messages, because they want to talk to you personally.
Right.
So if you don't pick up the phone, they won't leave a message.
They'll rarely leave a message. Wow.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So it's really important to impart and let that community know that you need to leave a message,
right.
because we could be busy, and it's not that we don't want to call you back, but leave us a message, leave us what it is that you need or what you need to find out, and we will call you back.
Yes, Miriam.
So
wow, that's tremendous.
It's interesting, and again, culture plays a big role. And as far as productivity,
right.
If you have Hispanic employees that you're supervising, culturally, we're taught that if we work together, we work faster and produce a better job.
Right.
I did a training for a hotel, and the supervisor was saying, well, I don't know why, the girls that I send up to the 5th floor always end up working together, when I really want one to clean one side of the hall and the other one to clean the other side of the hall. But after asking him a few pertinent questions, such as, are their rooms up to par? Do they take longer than the other girls? Is there a problem with their work? And he consciously thought about it and said, well, no, there isn't. Then I explained to him that culturally it's because, we're taught that if we work together, we do a better job, and we finish faster. So then, when he understood that, then it was okay.
Listen up, Miriam. That's tremendous. Speaking of that, if a viewer needs to get off to work now or get family off to school, what's the best way to reach you to learn more about Bilingual Connections and find out if you can make an impact on their business?
Well, the best way to reach me would be to call me, which, of course, the area code here is 843
right.
222
Great.
0084.
Okay, good. 222-0084. I think you said earlier this morning if a viewer wanted to send you an email, they could do that.
If they wanted to send me an email, it's Miriam, Miriam,
right.
at bilingualconnections.com.
Okay. Okay, that's fantastic. 222-0084 or Miriam at bilingualconnections.com.
Yes.
Real easy. How exciting, Miriam, to think about it. And of course, when you talk about, in speaking about the Hispanic community, at times you use the word we. And so to a great degree, you consider yourself as tied into the Hispanic community as the North American community.
Well, yes, I do, and there are several reasons for that. Is because I come from an interesting background. My parents are from the West Indies, which means that we're West Indian and we come from the Caribbean. And Hispanic community, Latino community, and Caribbean community are very much married and
is that right?
Almost parallel.
Oh, wow.
And another thing that's interesting about that is that actually Hispanic culture is very similar to Southern culture. And I'll give you a prime example.
Yeah.
There were companies that were sending their top sellers over to Latin American countries,
right,
and they were not producing or selling at the level that they were in the U.S. And they wanted to find out what was going on, that these top sellers, these people who were on top of their game, what was going on that it wasn't occurring the same way in these Latin American countries.
Yeah.
Well, what had happened is that when you go over there, you are not really to discuss business until your client brings up business. So basically, similar to Southern culture, you know, when you come in there, you have to chat a little bit.
Right,
You have to say hello. You have to have a cup of coffee. You have to, ask how the family is.
A little sweet tea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when that's brought up, then you can go into business. We had grown up in Germany, my brother and I, before we moved to South Carolina.
Right.
And one of the things that I had to learn and become indoctrinated into Southern culture was that when I went to high school here, one of my friends was saying that, well, Miriam, you don't really speak. And I said, I don't speak.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what exactly does that mean? I said, I always say good morning or hello. And they were like, yes, but you don't stop to chat.
Oh, wow.
So I had to learn to, saying hello wasn't just sufficient. I needed to stop and chat and ask.
What an insightful friend! Yeah.
So it is interesting.
That really is,
and it's a gift, I think, learning about different cultures and different areas and knowing what works.
That's tremendous, Miriam. Well, thank you. I mean, as you think about the cultures coming together, you see that real. Is there ever any undue scrutiny? I mean, oftentimes we've seen the political spheres, whether it's in the daily newspaper or on the air. Do you ever get any negative feedback about trying to bring the cultures together?
We do get negative feedback. I was the former president of Latinoamericanos en Acción, which was the only community-based nonprofit organization that was here to help the Hispanic community, to help acculturate the Hispanic community. We did things from like simply translating a letter that was sent home from an elementary school student to their parents, and the parents didn't speak English, to serving as interpreters in the hospital system if somebody was in the emergency room. But there are a lot of myths that surround the Hispanic community that are not necessarily true. There are a lot of undocumented people here. Yes, that is a fact. However, it's not true that even the undocumented population does not pay into the tax system. They do. There's something that is issued by the federal government that they receive called an ITIN, which is an individual tax identification number. Now, this is something that the federal government is issuing to these persons because they know that they're here in this country as undocumented people. But they are paying into our tax system because a lot of these people that are undocumented are in the process of trying to become legalized U.S. residents or citizens. So in order to show that they want to do the right thing and they want to adhere to our system, they do pay into our tax system. And you can only be issued this number if you have paid your taxes.
Tremendous, yes. So that is probably a big myth that a lot of folks aren't aware of.
Right. So that is a big myth. And the other myth is that a lot people believe that a lot of the Hispanic community is not interested in education. And that is also another myth. In fact, there's a project here called La Plaza Comunitaria, which is an educational initiative that is sponsored by the Mexican government to give persons who have not had the opportunity to finish with their education in their native language in their native countries, they can come to this La Plaza Comunitaria. The courses are free, and it gives them the opportunity to finish with their education in their native language and also to learn English.
Very important. Wow. I've heard seen one of our columnists, Min Alexander, write about that.
Yes.
Heard her talk about it at a dinner. And it is exciting and important to know that folks can actually wrap up their education even here.
Yes, because the issue is that if you are not proficient in your native language, it is twice as hard to learn a foreign language. And I think it is key to note that the Mexican government understands that they have a large population of their citizens here. And just like they want them to do better here, it's helping everybody all around.
Oh, yeah.
And another myth that's really interesting about the Hispanic population here is that not everyone who comes here to stay permanently.
Right.
A lot of people that come here, they come here on a 5-year plan, a 6-year plan. And their objective while they're here is to work as hard as they can to then send money home to their native country, buy property and businesses, and educate their
native country.
In their native country. And educate their siblings or children and give them an opportunity that they didn't have while they were there. So that then when they return, they've returned at a higher socioeconomic level.
And you've spoken with quite a few Hispanics locally who have that 5, 6, 7-year plan oftentimes and are really essentially making money here to be more profitable back home. That's wonderful.
And they're brought up in the entrepreneurial spirit, which I think is
amazing.
Well.
It's probably a big myth that a lot of folks wouldn't know about, is just thinking that folks are here to just to make money for whatever reason.
Right. But they do. They send it home to better their economic status there.
When did you first start studying Spanish? What tickled your fancy? Having spent much of your early life, and you said Germany, or even for a short time, just why not German? Why Spanish?
Well, you know, I did study German because I left the States when I was about 6 and a half and didn't come back until I was 14, and all of that time was spent in Germany.
Is that right? 8 years,
But when I was in the 6th grade, I told my parents that I wanted to be a linguist for the UN.
Oh, wow. Good
and
for you.
In my household, there were 3 languages spoken all the time, which was French, Haitian Creole, and English. And so I always studied French, Spanish, and German when I was in school. And in fact, when I graduated from Sacristy High, I was the only student that was taking French, Spanish, German, and advanced English all at the same time.
No, French, Spanish, German, and advanced English in your final year at Sacristy High School. Good for you.
So it's just something I've always enjoyed. I've always enjoyed traveling.
Right.
You know, having parents that aren't from the country in which you're being raised has always been something very interesting. And I understand a lot of the challenges that the children of parents, you know, who are raising them in a different country have, because sometimes the two cultures clash, and a lot of times it's very difficult to explain that to a child that, you know, in our culture we don't do this, but all of your friends around you, it's okay. So it can be an interesting challenge. But there are so many things. You know, the Hispanic population here is growing expositionally.
Is it really?
In numbers.
I saw some of the figures, the fact sheets from South Carolina, from the government there, which they're very substantial, 61.9% growth from 2000 to just 2005.
And that is severely underrepresented. And the growth is more like as a rate of 211% a year.
Wow.
In fact, they predicted that if the growth rate continues at that level, 1 out of 5 households will be Spanish speaking by the year 2010. That's 2 years from now.
Is that right? 1 out of 5 in Horry County.
Yes.
In Horry County alone, or in South Carolina, principally. Horry County is a huge county. But
Horry County is the 3rd largest population growth-wise of Hispanics in the state of South Carolina.
Wow.
in the
I wonder
state
what
of
the other
South
two
Carolina.
are. Do you remember? Yeah, not to
I don't
put you
know
on the spot, but they're
offhand the other
right.
two, but you know, since I live and work in
Sure.
Horry and Georgetown counties,
Right.
these are the counties that I concentrate on. But Charleston, I know, has a large number. York County, Greenville, so they're
Right,
substantial
right.
numbers. And the Hispanic buying power is at $2.1 million annually.
Billion or million? Yeah.
I believe it's million. And that is something that really businesses need to think about and consider.
Right.
Because not only is there a large Hispanic population here, but their spending power is phenomenal. So it would behoove any business to know even minimal Spanish to help better serve
Right.
the Hispanic clientele. And let me tell you something about the Hispanic culture. They're a very loyal culture. So if they know that Greg has a business
Right.
and Greg makes the effort, and you may know 5 phrases in Spanish,
Right.
they're going to say, Greg speaks Spanish. And they're going to send all of their friends to Greg
Wow.
and say, you need to speak to Greg. Greg speaks Spanish. He's made an effort to try and communicate with us. He wants to help us. He wants our business. You know, if you go to any of the car dealers here, the Hispanic population has a good deal of disposable income because they have been raised in their culture to save a good portion of their earnings.
Right.
So therefore, if they're going to go and buy a car, they can put a sufficient amount down for a down payment.
Right,
More
right.
so than an American, because you know we don't save 10 to 20% of our
Right.
income
No.
normally.
Right.
We should, but
yes,
we don't.
Yes, yes.
So-
Miriam, how exciting. Bilingual connections can have an impact both on small and obviously large
And
businesses,
large
but you can really
businesses.
impact small business as well, as small
Yes.
as 2 or 3 employees and as big as thousands,
Yes.
it sounds like. Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough, Walmart, which you know is one of the largest service
Sure.
providers
In the world.
in the world, they do Hispanic diversity meetings for their stores.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to have been invited to speak to them about Hispanic diversity
Right.
and things that they can do or need to be aware of to increase sales within the Hispanic community.
Tremendous.
And one of the things that was brought up is that in the Hispanic community, Sunday is family day,
Right.
and Sunday is shopping day.
Ooh.
So Walmart discovered that they needed to make sure that their shelves were stocked equally with the products that were needed on Sunday as it was during the week. Because on Sunday is when the largest group of Hispanics will come and buy.
That is
Because
fascinating.
that is
Miriam.
family day.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, fresh produce and products, meats and vegetables, and the different fruits and stuff that are eaten by the Hispanic community, because the Hispanic community is still not so much into the prepackaged meal. So they will go and make supper and cook, and not just on Sunday. They cook every day of the week. So it was important to note that.
Miriam, that's tremendous. Well, so clearly, so is it easy for folks to learn another language? Obviously, for you, who at 6th grade thought you'd be a linguist for the United Nations, you commit to languages, but is it easy for normal folks, for me, for instance? Or,
It is easy, and I'm going to tell you why.
We've just got a couple of minutes, so
Okay.
yeah, I want to make sure we
Okay.
get that in.
It really is not as difficult as people think, and especially when we're teaching just the information that you need, say for your workplace, or if
Right.
you have something that you want to concentrate on, because what I teach you to do is to communicate. So I'm not going to teach you grammar. I'm not going to teach you how to write it unless, of course, you request it. But
Right.
your main objective is going to be to communicate, to get your point across, to service your customer.
Right.
And we teach it in bite-sized amounts, and it isn't hard to learn. The reason why adults don't learn as quickly as children is because we put limitations on ourselves. We're like, well, they're not going to understand my accent. They're going to think that I sound silly.
Right.
You know, we put the limitations on ourselves. Children learn as quickly as they do because they're all about communication. So if you have a ball that they want to play with, they will say everything until they get the correct reaction from you,
Right.
and until they're corrected into, you know, how to correctly form the sentence. But they are going to communicate, and they're not worried about sounding silly.
Right.
They're not worried that somebody's going to think that they have a funny accent. They're not worried they're going to say something wrong. They want to play.
Yes.
So that's why, but it's not difficult at all to learn, and of course it's what you put in it too.
Right, right. That's wonderful. Miriam, I'm sorry we've run out of time. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
To you.
Very definitely. It's a great way to help kick off the week. Stay tuned a little more of Miriam Berouet with Bilingual Connections coming up next. Isn't it great just to get down to the basics? How difficult is it to learn another language? You heard Miriam say it. Basically, it's simple. If you have a basic understanding of English, you can get a basic understanding of Spanish. You can probably even get a basic understanding of German or Portuguese or other languages. But you've got to have a basic understanding of your native language. Same thing for Hispanics in our community. If they have a basic understanding of Spanish, they can learn English, and they want to learn English. Just like we want to learn Spanish, they want to learn English. Learn more about Bilingual Connections. Pick up the phone, 843-222-0084, 222-0084. I ran out of time and didn't even get the basic question out there. How easy is it to get started? 222-0084. You know, we love to have one-of-a-kind guest. Yesterday we had someone talking about The Extraordinary Way, the creator. Later in the week we've got someone talking about bad gangs, but also good gangs. There's a way to make a difference in your community, but merging cultures is a particularly important way. 222-0084. When we think about by the year 2010, 1 out of 7 small businesses will be Hispanic-owned. That's a big one. More than $2 billion of buying power in this state alone, and a lot of barriers that the Hispanic community is working to overcome. You can be a part of that. 843-222-0084. Miriam Berouet, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Greg.
One-of-a-kind
Thank you so
business.
much.
Exciting to get you.